what in the world made you decide you wanted to do a coat drive?
Well, a friend and I were talking last year, and they had been taking coats over to Granny White, and we'd been involved with that for a long time. And we every year cleaned out our closets and brought them, and this friend said, you know, we need to do that here. We've got a lot of people in our area that are cold, and I said, you know, you're right. I could get excited about that. And the next thing I knew, it was my job.
That's the Antioch way, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about, if you're laughing. So you took it on as a job, and when did this kind of start, you know, getting in motion, and kind of what had to happen to get it rolling?
Yeah, well, we had sort of decided last year, and then went through all the channels to see if it was okay, and picked a date and did all that sort of thing. And then I really should have started it about July, but my mother broke her hip. And so that distracted me for a little while. And we finally got on it towards the end of August, first part of September, I guess. And just said, everybody bring coats. And every place that we went, we said, have any coats? Anybody have coats? We'd love to have some coats. Know where we can get some coats? And people just started doing that. I mean, one of the things I knew, especially since I was getting such a late start, that I needed some help. But everybody that I knew was either really involved with doing their job raising kids, or involved with other ministries, or working, and just didn't have time. And so I started praying. I said, God, I don't know who to ask. And I literally started flipping through the directory and praying about it. And Casey and Kathy sprang to my mind, and I called both of them, Casey Higginbotham and Kathy Huggins. And I hadn't really worked with them very much before. I just kind of, hi, how are you? And they both said, yeah, we'd love to do that. So we met as a committee one time, and
it's a good committee.
and then they just took things and ran with them. Casey and Kathy both took boxes to places where they worked, and they took boxes to Walgreens and to Shoney's and put flyers up. And then everybody else just started doing the same thing. You know, I'm never going to hear all the stories of people who just, I mean, I've heard some of them. I know who found the best deal on coats, and I know where those came from. So, and then the people where they took boxes to their workplaces, those people got excited and brought coats, and they talked to people who brought coats, and we were thankful for every single coat we could get our hands on.
So Ted, I got to ask you, tell me about the basement of your house about a week ago.
I have one now.
Yeah, you do. What did it look like a week ago?
It was pretty full. We had about 400 coats down
about
there.
400 coats, okay.
And that's a big pile of coats. But we had a place to put them. We put them down there, and we just dedicated the basement to the storage of coats.
Very good. That's a nice coat you got there. Where'd you
Thank
get
you
that?
very much. It's Kent Johnson.
Okay. Very good. Well, it was neat to see them come in. You know, the first Sunday, I think we had the rack out in the foyer. There was a few coats hanging there for examples and little, memory triggers, and I saw them out there, and I thought, oh boy, Kathy's wanting how many coats? And how many people are going to come? And I remember thinking, this is going to be something. And but it was just so neat when you would come in and say, hey, we got 100 coats. We got 200 coats. We ended up with
850.
850 coats.
855, but
who's counting? 855. And they were all given away yesterday in 90 minutes, except for
just a few little light windbreakers.
Yeah. It was it had boiled down to just a handful of coats, really. Anything stick out in your mind as far as when you were watching the people, the kids, the parents, the elderly, the different folks that were looking for a warm coat yesterday? I mean, there were tons of people down there. Was there anybody that you just thought, that's a mental picture I can't forget? Yeah,
there were a couple of those. The first one that happened, I mean, we had everything set up, and we said, that's really cool. Look at all those coats. And it was a simple thing. It wasn't that anybody had to do a lot, spend a lot, think about a lot, people just went and got coats and brought them. And we looked and we said, wow, 855 coats. That is the coolest thing. And we were going to open the doors at 9 o'clock. And at 7:45, there was a line. And we said, okay, this could get really big. and at 8:30, we said it's too cold to stand outside. And we let people come in, and it just flooded the entire foyer. And big groups of people came in, and babies that were still in their jammies with little hats on and stuff. And we began to get people registered and stuff. And I remember Casey coming in just a little bit before 9, and she came downstairs and she was just crying. And she said, God has touched me so much with this. I cannot believe the response we've got. And that was a big picture for me, because she had been a real go-getter to get the coats, and for her to be that touched was pretty cool. And I remember bringing the first group down and opening the door and feeling that same feeling, you know, that finally our guests were here, and we finally got to do what we'd been looking forward to doing, and there it was, all spread out before them, and they were so excited. And the first few groups especially, it was like watching people play dress up. I mean, and we had the scarves that Amy Jordan's mom had made on a lot of the coats, and the women, the single older women who, you know, I mean, they were finding purple coats with fancy trim, you know, and all this, and they were just having a ball playing dress up. And then we had kids who were, you know, doing twirlies in all their coats, and it was people from here, you know. I mean, Bonnie did a super job at registration, and we didn't have many people that were from out of this area. It was our community, and that was one of the things that I thought was so cool. Was our elders have said, we want to serve our community, and somebody saw someone who was in our community that didn't have a coat and sparked this whole thing, and then all of us said, well, yeah, I can bring a coat, you know, anybody can bring a coat, and we did. And then we gave them to people who live here, and they were very thankful.